This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday, October 24th of 2025, and we are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will have some comments from Iowa Cattlemen's CEO, Bryan Whaley, as he weighed in on President Trump's comments about the cattle industry. We'll also have a check of the closing markets with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. But first, let's listen in as we talk with Bryan Whaley of the Iowa Cattlemen's Association about those comments from President Trump. And Bryan, it's been an interesting 24 hours following comments made by President Trump about the U.S. cattle producers and the increase of beef imports from Argentina to lower beef prices. First off, when it comes to that plan and also that statement made by President Trump, what is the initial reaction from the Iowa Cattlemen's Association?
Yeah, Riley, well, thanks for having me. And we were a little surprised, to be honest with you, that he made that statement. As you think about and what we released is, he's always referred to the cattlemen and the ranchers and those that are in the ag world as kind of the backbone of America. And to make that initial comment specifically in yesterday's True Social post was, I think it struck a lot of people a little bit on the wrong side and didn't really know all the details on where it was coming from at that time. And we still may not know all the details at this time, and things are continuing to unfold by the minute, by the hour these days. And so as we represent our members of the Iowa Cattlemen's Association, we had received a significant number of calls and wanted to know what our stance was and what our thoughts were from an association standpoint as we represent cattle producers across the state. And so we felt that we needed to issue a statement more along the lines focused really where our members were really concerned is how the comments affected the markets. Those comments are made during the middle of the day when the markets are open, and the impact that those had on the markets. Even last Friday with the initial comment, I think we went limit down again on the feeders, and then obviously yesterday we were limit down again. Today I've seen that the live cattle have bounced back up a little bit on the futures board. Feeders are down still. But it does make an impact, and people hang on the words of the president. And when you make those, it does have an impact on the market, which, directly affects the decisions that our producers are able to make as they're thinking about at this time of the year, hey, how many feeder cattle am I going to bring in right now? If I'm feeding cattle, how many am I going to bring into my pens? What's that look like for my break evens down the road? Where are my where do I need to have these cattle priced and marketed in the future to be able that I'm profitable and that I continue to be viable into the future to be able to hand over my operation potentially to someone else, whether it's a generational handover or another individual. And so that's really the concern of where our members are right now is just the market volatility that it's created.
And then, of course, with the statement as well, we see that he mentioned that, over the past 20 years, the industry has done terrible and that, needs that dramatic fix. But we know that rancher success is driven by their own hard work. And I think just to say that not enough work has been done, I think is, pretty unfair and untrue to the cattle producers across the state and the country, right?
I would agree with you on that. I think if you truly look at what's happened in this cattle industry, and I don't want to dwell on the post very much, but the comment about tariffs, and that's what really has triggered the industry. You need to go look at where the industry was at 2, 3, 4 years ago, and we were already on a climb in prices. And as I've explained with other people, the cattle market has it's a cycle. We have our highs and we have our lows, just like a lot of other things that are traded. And so that was real concerning to us. And I think you touched on, the hard work that it takes for our producers and the time and the sweat equity and all those things that they put in to really produce a high quality, protein that is very sought after these days. I mean, we're right now, we're at I think I heard recently, we're at a 40-year high in demand. And so really, it is a demand market. I mean, they've done such a good job of making genetic decisions, improving nutrition, the environments that these cattle are raised in, as well as how they're handled. They've done such a good job and made such improvements that our product is really the highest quality product, and it's very sought after, whether you're in your local community, across the country, or even in other places across the world. And so I think our producers take pride in the work that they do. They represent their brands and the cattle that they put out. And so I think that did catch some people off guard with that comment.
All right, Bryan, thanks so much for the time today. And once again, for anyone who wants to get in touch online, what's the website for the Iowa Cattlemen?
Yeah, it's just www.iacattlemen.org. And if you want to look at some of the government relations pieces or our policy statements, you can just look under that tab right on there.
That again was Iowa Cattlemen's Association CEO Bryan Whaley. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, a word from the Iowa Soybean Association. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm here now with Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net as we take a look at the closing market summary. First off, Curt, what do we see going on in the grain markets today as we end off the week?
Well, we saw the corn market close 1 to 4 cents lower. On the weekly chart, it hung in there unchanged to 1 cent higher. The soybeans down 2 to 4 cents on the daily chart, but up over 21 cents on the weekly chart. Wheat down a half a cent in Chicago, but it was 8 cents higher on the weekly chart. So market held in there. The government's been shut down, and we've actually seen some fairly good pricing activity to the upside. We saw quite a little bit of different news here this week. We saw the talk of, probably more so in the livestock sector, but we continue to get a higher market on ideas that maybe the talk will be that we see some type of an agreement with China here as we move forward. I believe there's been some business take place here. China's famous for flying under the radar. The government has been shut down. We've seen some appreciation in basis, particularly in the East. And we've also seen just a lack of producers selling to keep the market up here at the upper end of the trading range. The key is next week here and kind of see which way the wind's blowing as far as news goes.
Of course, we know we have that meeting between President Trump and then Chinese President Xi Jinping, supposedly next week, happening on Thursday. We don't know entirely what all they will cover yet, but I'm assuming that the grain markets, if there were to be something to come from that, that would be huge news and finally a solid headline to look at, right?
I guess, yeah, we'll get something going here. As far as China goes, there was some talk on one of the advisory services was going back to phase one of the trade agreement. There was a part in there where called the Section 301, where if they don't comply with the phase one agreement, the U.S. can actually come in and put sanctions or tariffs on, and China would not be able to retaliate. So they're digging deep and rereading the paperwork from before. But It'd be much simpler if they could work something out. Overall, when you look at the big picture, we are recouping or gathering some business from other countries coming into the U.S., making up for some of that. And the other thing is, too, they're starting to use some of the reserve beans. Once those reserve beans are pretty well flowing out, they'll want to resupply those sometime. It won't be anytime soon, but they always like U.S. soybeans because of the quality there.
Then over on the livestock side of things, it's been a little bit more exciting with the comments from President Trump influencing the markets there. What do we see in the cattle and hogs today?
Oh, lock limit down. It held together or tried to trade a little bit early in the day, but this day wore on. It ran for cover. Margin call liquidation. A lot of managed money was long the market. Even though cattle and feed report, which did not come out today, it would have showed tight numbers. They were looking about 98% on feed, 91% placed, and 96% marketed. So we still have a tight fundamental situation. Cash trade kind of held in there, but we saw some fairly good liquidation, not only on talk about importing beef out of Argentina, but there's some talk about opening up the border to Mexico in certain areas of Mexico to have some of that flow through. But the cattle comments this week did not go well for the beef producer.
All right, Curt, lots of great information today for anyone who would like to get in touch with agmarket.net. How can they do that?
1-800-779-1515 or go to agmarket.net.
Thanks again for the time. As always, Curt, have a great weekend, and we will look forward to more analysis soon.
You bet. Take care.
That again was Curt Kimmel of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. At the close, December corn down 4 3/4 at 4.23 1/4. November soybeans down 3 even at 10.41 3/4. December soybean meal up $1.80 at 2.9410. Soybean oil down 60 cents at 50.27. Chicago wheat down half a cent at 5.12 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 1.5 at 5.01 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat down 1 even at 5.57 even. December oats up 1.5 at 3.09 even. On the Merc, December live cattle down 7.25 at 2.33.92. November feeder cattle are limit locked down 9.25 at 3.52.20. December lean hogs up 12 at 81.90. Pork cutout went unchanged at 94 even, and November Class 3 milk up 39 cents at 17.82. That's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well to check out our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pod's Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.